let me talk a little bit more about the open source movement, about the fact that, as you say, over and over and over and over, FFmpeg and many open source projects are built by volunteers. So there's a bit of drama recently, Kieran, on the interwebs, on Twitter. You have a spicy style on Twitter that I think articulates and celebrates all the incredible developers and development and the code, especially assembly, that's involved in building some of these codecs and building some of this incredible technology. But that brings us to a bit of a debacle that happened. Tell me the full saga of what happened with the Google security engineers.
Just to be clear, Google are one of the biggest supporters of open source out there. They have been for a long time. It's just, I think, some things kind of went a bit overboard this time. So FFmpeg itself, and this is not like a secret, it's on the homepage, it processes untrusted data. There can be security issues when you parse untrusted data. That's very normal. But recently what changed was Google started using AI to create security reports on an open source project, FFmpeg. Volunteers had to deal with that. They provided very limited funding, and they even went to the media first announcing how good their AI was before the issues could be fixed.
And this is in the public forum.
Yeah.
So reporting an issue, using AI to find an issue in the code, which is a security vulnerability, and then reporting that publicly before you're able to fix it.
Yeah. It's announcing how good their AI is, that they provided a standard 90-day industry deadline without really understanding the nature of volunteer-driven development. In addition, this vulnerability was on an obscure 1990s game codec. The way, and let's look at it from their standpoint to begin with. Let's
Yeah, can you steel man their case?
Yeah, sure. They have substantial resources working on the security of open source projects that, are ubiquitous, and they've used, a lot of compute to do that, and very expensive and very capable security researchers to do that. And that's their viewpoint, is they are contributing by doing that. But I think that's where opinions differ. It opened up a lot of interesting fissures, I would say. It does seem that there's a portion of the security community that look at themselves a bit like building architects that never have to go to site. Going to site is something that is a little bit beneath them, the actual day-to-day construction. They're there to do their security things, and it's someone else's problem. The security industry also kind of has a very aggressive tone towards things. The language they use is extremely aggressive. They use very strong language, like "you will get popped." And to Joe Public, get popped, it means something quite bad. For them, it means to get hacked. The way I would look at it personally is a little bit like the padlock on your home. Not everyone, the padlock on your home, or the lock on your home, is there to protect against the capabilities of what it's there to protect. It's not there to protect nuclear secrets. It's not there to protect Fort Knox. And it could be looked at that they're using AI at a level of scale to go and pick those locks and then say, hey, your lock's not secure. You need to deal with this. Whereas actually they're the ones with resources to be able to fix this. But that seems to not be something either they'll contribute to in terms of patches or in terms of financially. And the scale of AI is kind of the issue. The bug reports are very wordy. They're very, very... It's almost a denial of service by AI-generated bug reports on very niche codecs. And the other issue the security community has is everything is marked high priority. You're going to, this is the most important thing in the world, and you need to deal with this high, vulnerable, scary, on a game codec used on one disk in 1993.
Yeah.
And that's where the dichotomy lies. Going around telling everyone that their padlock's not safe, well, that's a hobby project of somebody. The safety of that codec is consummate to what that person thinks. It's their hobby. It's good that they're security analyzing it, but it doesn't need a big scary warning. This is a critical vulnerability. May recently also see that there was another quote unquote vulnerability. It wasn't a Google in this case, but a filter could overflow and have an integer overflow, and one of your pixels could be the wrong color. And this was marked high, 7.5 severity in red. And at some point, the security industry needs to realize you can't keep crying wolf like this, because this just leads to people, the equivalent thereof of putting password stickers on their PC. You can't just keep crying wolf every day. And I appreciate, that's their modus operandi, is to create as much scared and fear. But from the Google standpoint, at the end of the day, they need to contribute either financially or with patches. Google uses FFmpeg at a scale probably you or I couldn't even contemplate. Millions of CPU cores. And yes, they contribute in areas mostly regarding their own products, so VP9, AV1. But in a wider sense, there's a disproportionate level of contribution. Yes, they fund students. Yes, they fund Summer of Code. And I think, so Alex Strange is a former FFmpeg developer, I think posting in a personal capacity.
So he posted about security engineers on Hacker News. His post reads, "The problem with security reports in general is security people are rampant self-promoters," in parentheses. Linus once called them something worse. Imagine you're a humble volunteer open source developer. If a security researcher finds a bug in your code, they're going to make up a cute name for it, start a website with a logo. Google is going to give them $1 million bounty. They're going to go to DEF CON and get a prize, and I assume go to some kind of secret security people orgy where everyone is dressed like they're in the Matrix. Nobody's going to do any of this for you when you fix it. Basically commenting on the sort of the incentives for the different people involved are misaligned.
The problem here is a disproportion of means on discovery compared to patching it, right? And this is the biggest issue, right? And after that debacle, Google did some
They
changes.
are now starting to send patches, which is... Yeah.
And they also now have rewards tools for fixing issues. So it has changed a bit because of that debacle. So it's good, right? But we've seen, and we talked about Google, but we have seen like some other large companies saying, oh, you need to fix this bug because it's critical in our product.
Can you explain the XZ fiasco? The FFmpeg tweet reads, "The XZ fiasco has shown how a dependence on unpaid volunteers can cause major problems. Trillion-dollar corporations expect free and urgent support from volunteers. Microsoft Teams posted on a bug tracker full of volunteers that their issue is high priority. After politely requesting a support contract from Microsoft for long-term maintenance, they offered a one-time payment of a few $1,000s instead. This is unacceptable. We didn't make it up. This is what Microsoft Teams actually did." And then you give the image and the details and all that kind of stuff, showing that these trillion-dollar companies are not giving much money, not giving much support.
They think an open source project is a traditional vendor, that they have an SLA. They think a public bug tracker is actually, a third-party vendor's Jira where you can do all of these things. It's not. It's there to report bugs. I think the thing that made this particularly heinous was the name-dropping of Microsoft, the name-dropping that this is a visible product. If this was just a general bug report, I think that would have made it a lot better.
Yeah, so they literally said, like, this is a big deal because a lot of people are using it in Microsoft. I wonder what happens psychologically. So I think what happens in these companies, maybe you can correct me, is you're right. They just think of FFmpeg as like a vendor that Microsoft surely is paying a huge amount of money to. They kind of assume that in their interaction, and nobody anywhere on the stack is going like, wait a minute, shouldn't we be giving like millions of dollars to FFmpeg?
And this is a very big problem in large, like we're talking about some companies, but it's the same everywhere, right? A lot of those companies, like when we talk to that person, right, he was just like a manager on one project in Microsoft Teams, right? He had like never really discussed with open source community. He had no idea, right? It was like, but the problem is that usually there is what we call OSPOs, right? Open source program offices in those type of companies. And they are the ones who are supposed to discuss with open source vendors, or open source communities. But like they often don't explain that correctly internally, right? And here it's just like, we are not your supplier. If you want me to be your supplier, I'm very happy, right? I will send you a contract and SLAs. Like I created 5 companies who are doing that around open source projects, so that's okay.
We should say that some of the spicy tweets that, Kieran, you're behind, and some of the debacle produced results, positive results.
Donations have increased substantially. They're still not enough to cover even a single full-time developer, but on both a awareness level and a technical level, there's substantially more technical awareness and sort of awareness of the importance of FFmpeg as a result of X and what's happened. I can say, it solved its purpose. People realize the level of importance FFmpeg has.
And on VideoLAN, it's the same, right? Like, for example, a very simple example. For more than a year, we couldn't update VLC on Android because of a bug on the Play Store, on Android Play Store, right? The only way we got someone to answer was to put a very spicy, as you say, tweet saying that we were going to stop distributing VLC for Android, right? And we have around 100 million people using that. And now, then, someone from Android actually came and discussed to us, right? We had the same issue with Microsoft, or like saying that we were going to stop distributing VLC on the Windows Store. And unfortunately, we are so small that the only very strong power we have to solve those issues is blaming on social network because it snowballs and now they listen to us. But those large companies often have difficulty talking to us. Like, for example, VLC, right, is probably one of the top 10 software used on Windows. I am not part of Microsoft ISV programs, right? I don't have a point of contact at Microsoft, right? Well, I'm sure any other software, Adobe, Spotify has a point of contact. I don't have that, right? So raising awareness works. It's sometimes very spicy, a lot of drama. Well, X and Twitter are okay for that, but it's efficient.
So everybody listening to this should go follow FFmpeg on Twitter, on X, follow VideoLAN on Twitter, on X. Go donate to FFmpeg.
Thank you, Lex. Over the years, several years, you've been a supporter of FFmpeg and VideoLAN on X, giving us shout outs, appreciating, what we do.
FFmpeg for life.
And for example, like Tim Sweeney, Carmack, and a few others, like very high level people have raised also the awareness on our X accounts, and that helped a lot also.
Karpathy
as
well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, also, outside of the fact that so many people use it, it's so impactful on the world, it's also a great representation of a great open source project. Like the value of assembly and C and making sure that like you take programming seriously for real world systems.
It's not just that. We'll talk about assembly later, I'm sure, because that's its whole topic in itself, but it's also celebrating people like Andreas Reinhardt who do maintenance. It's, I believe, unpaid, I believe as a volunteer. He's doing massive refactorings. Andreas Reinhardt and Anton Kernov rewriting FFmpeg.c with threading, celebrating those guys, celebrating the untold labor that's gone into this that actually doesn't change anything from the user standpoint. The files are exactly the same, but wow, the airplane has been rebuilt whilst it's in the air.
Christian Garcia said, as a teenager running this account, referring to the FFmpeg account, and you responded, teenagers have written more assembly in FFmpeg than Google engineers, but also just pointing out that there's a lot of incredible contributors who are teenagers.
Like JB said, we don't care who you are, where you're from, what you do. Teenagers have written thousands of lines of assembly over the years. Give a shout out back in the days to Daniel Kang. So also highlighting the work of people like Rukai Peng. This is a 16-year-old, some of his first contributions to FFmpeg, actually doing and putting some of these quote-unquote security researchers to shame by actually finding issues and fixing them, and being 16. There's no barriers. There's no barriers to you have to study at college under this person and understand these. If you can learn C, and let's be honest, it's from the K&R book. Learn C. You can learn assembly. We'll talk about that maybe a bit later. You can contribute to world-class technologies.
In VLC, one of the oldest contributor is called Felix. He's the one doing everything on Mac and iOS. He's starting working on VLC. He was 16. We had a guy called Edward Wong, who used to be a Google Summer of Code student who stayed for 3 years around VideoLAN. He was 14, right? And part of Google Summer of Code and Google Coding, which were programs where basically we have students or high school. We wrote a ton of assembly for X264 and for VLC and for FFmpeg, right? So everyone can contribute.
And he also did a good job because he didn't play the alarmist CVE, create a CVE, which is like a public exposure of security, and do these big, scary, red 7.5 high priority. He just fixed an issue in Git after 3 days and just fixed it. He didn't need to go and play a big security drama about it. And I think I posted, the kids are all right. Whereas there is I'm not saying all security people do this, but there is a portion of the security community, as Alex said, that likes to hype themselves up by creating drama. They would have happily raised, this is a high priority CVE 8.0 or whatever on an issue that actually was in Git. It wasn't even in a release. It was in development, and 3 days later was fixed.
Well, I just want to put a little bit of love out there, even to the bigger community. Much love and respect to Google engineers. Like you said, they're some of the best software engineers in the world, and they do contribute a lot,
Yes.
even on the security front.
Sure.
And also, I'm a big fan of Theo. Much love to Theo. He was part of this debacle and drama a little bit. I think when you just zoom out on the grand arc of human history, the drama contributed positively to everybody involved. Donations went up. It brought more attention to the topic, allowed everybody to bicker in a way that ultimately got them to figure out what FFmpeg is all about.
So the way we looked at this is like it's a rap battle at the end of the day. No, but it is. We say stuff. We say stuff.
Yeah.
But we can leave it on it. X is a perfect place for international rap battle. You say stuff. I say stuff about your mama, but it doesn't mean I'm gonna have an actual personal issue with her.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. The Theo situation, JB can maybe expand, went a little bit too far, and there was a little, but it's just a bit of fun. It's just a bit of rap battle. It's WWE. Everyone's having a bit of fun on X. It doesn't need to be taken seriously. The teenagers thing, that guy was a Google employee saying, hey, there are other ways to run an open source business. Go and there's like, oh man, just have a bit of fun.
Yeah.
That's what the point of this account is. And furthermore, if you can teach people about the ways of open source projects, assembly, etc., by doing that, I think there's a lot to be offered here. It's not dunking on people for dunking's sake. It's showing actually the story that I think X learned is these are not big corporate open source projects. This is not Kubernetes where there's hundreds, maybe thousands of people paid to develop this stuff. These are just people in their basements in their spare time. And if you can address that topic in a fun and entertaining way, I think that's the good thing, and that's the value of X and then the reach we have.
And to be honest, right, like even at Google is one entity, but so many different people, right? And there is a ton of Google engineer we work with all the time, and even like Google, from YouTube to Chrome Media to the rest of Google, those are very different type of entities. But what we do is efficient. And for example, for Theo, right, it went a bit too far. I had him like I calm everyone down. I had him on the phone. We say, okay, like this goes too far and so on. But in the end, it's a rap battle, but it's positive for the project. It's like the awareness we have on open source and I mean true open source from communities, right? Not is increased dramatically in the last 2 years, and this is useful.